He'd complain about anything I said about his career, if he was happy. It's like he wasn't the same Chipmunk. Like, he wasn't my brother. The defense attorney asked him, do you mean his whole perception about his family was different now? Alvin's brother said, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Your witness. The state attorney asked Raymond, Alvin's brother, to clarify whether or not he was in close contact with Alvin all the time. Raymond, Alvin's brother, answered, we were in touch with each other just like any brother would, not every single day. The state attorney then asked Alvin's brother, your assumption of his mental change is all based on 1 or 2 visits with each other, correct? Alvin's brother answered by saying, no, that is not what I'm saying. I'm talking about several months' time and not 1 or 2 weeks. The state attorney told the judge, I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor. The judge then excused Alvin's brother from the stand. The defense attorney then called his own psychiatrist to the stand, who evaluated Alvin between 1968 and 1969. Mr. Copper told the judge that the state attorney's office would not allow him to have a doctor examine Alvin prior to 1968 because Alvin was constantly in isolation because of fights with other inmates. Deputy sheriffs who were in the prison at that time stated to the judge under a separate deposition that Alvin's constant, unruly behavior forced them to isolate Alvin from the other inmates. The psychiatrist's name was Dr. Markham. He was called to the stand and sworn in by the bailiff. The defense attorney asked Dr. Markham to explain to the court and the jury what his professional opinion was of Alvin. Dr. Markham said, I examined Alvin for 12 months, approximately 3 out of 4 weeks each month, speaking to him about what happened on Christmas Day in 1965 and how he had been feeling before and since the time he had been incarcerated in the jail. His answers disturbed me, because they came across as being threatening and extremely disorientating. In my professional opinion, this individual should not even be in a normal jail environment because with his violent tendencies and mental state of mind, he poses a serious threat to the other inmates. The defense attorney asked Dr. Markham, do you think his state of mind now is worse or different because of being incarcerated in jail? The state attorney objected to this line of questioning, saying it is an unfair evaluation of an inmate who has been incarcerated more than 2 years since their arrest. The judge overruled and asked the doctor to answer the question. Dr. Markham said, besides my examinations, I also checked other exams that were done of Alvin by those doctors who serve within the jail, hoping it could give some insight as to his state of mind when he was arrested. Though these were not trained psychiatrists or psychologists, they stated he was unruly and uncooperative from the time he was brought to the jail and had become increasingly violent towards other inmates in the time since. Having done my own evaluation of Alvin, I strongly believe he has become worse, but he already had these feelings of hate before the shooting. His mental stability had begun to degenerate, as his own mother stated earlier. I have no further questions, Your Witness. The state attorney asked to approach the judge's bench and they conferred with each other for approximately 10 minutes. No record of what was said could be obtained. After this, the state attorney asked Dr. Markham, do you believe that Alvin could possibly be someone else, a dual personality perhaps? The doctor then answered by saying, Alvin did not show any schizoid behavior towards me whenever I examined him, so I cannot say he has any such tendencies. The state attorney then asked Dr. Markham if he believed, in his professional opinion, that a person could feel such hatred towards another person on the basis of that person's financial status that they could possibly shoot someone for those reasons. The doctor then answered, if you're implying Alvin shot Dave Seville over money, that kind of situation was not beyond probability. Alvin's hate that he projected towards me in threats and hostilities could very likely stem from other causes, besides what he endured in the prison system. The state attorney then told the judge he had no further questions. The judge asked the defense attorney if he had any cross-examination that he wanted to give Dr. Markham, but the defense attorney said no. The judge excused the witness from the stand and recessed for the day. On the next day of the trial, the defense attorney requested only one further witness to be called to the stand. He asked Alvin himself to testify before the jury and the court. Alvin was sworn in by the bailiff and he was told by the judge that if he made any vulgar statements, he would be held in contempt of court. The defense attorney then asked that this be stricken from the record, showing bias by the judge against Alvin himself. The judge adamantly stated, "No." The defense attorney asked Alvin point blank, "Did you kill Dave Seville?" Alvin answered by saying, "No, I don't remember that ever happening." The defense attorney asked Alvin, "What do you remember?" Alvin answered his attorney by saying, "The first thing I remember was being held by the arms of the two security guards that we had at EMI. I saw these guys every single day and never thought they would actually be holding me for something I did, or something they said I did." The defense attorney asked Alvin, "Do you own the gun?" Alvin answered by saying, "I don't believe so. I know my brother Raymond has one, but I don't think I ever bought one." The defense attorney asked Alvin why he would say it in those terms. Alvin answered by saying, "Because me and Raymond used to do a lot of target practice and most times Alvin, would end up taking it with him because he couldn't afford to buy the ammunition to practice with it." The defense attorney then turned to the judge, bringing out that the evidence presented as Exhibit A was in reality Raymond the Chipmunk's and not Alvin's. The judge then countered by stating that the serial number listed for this pistol was registered to the Los Angeles Firearms Bureau as being owned by Alvin. When the defense attorney asked Alvin about this, Alvin said, "I don't remember ever buying the gun." The defense attorney asked Alvin, "Are you being totally honest with me, as your attorney?" Alvin's answer was a derogatory statement that was not mentioned in the testimony that was transcribed. The only reference of what he said was, Alvin became very distraught with his attorney and was held in contempt by the judge. At this time the judge asked the defense attorney if he had any further questions to ask Alvin, which the defense attorney then said no. The judge then asked the state attorney if he wished to cross-examine the witness. The state attorney said yes. The state attorney told old Alvin, "Please be aware that you are already under contempt of court. Please answer any question I ask you directly and do not use any profanity in this courtroom. Did you attempt to murder Dave Seville?" Alvin's persona totally changed when he answered the question. His reply was a very tranquil, very subdued, "No, I did not." The state attorney then asked Alvin if he had ever been under any doctor's care for a mental disorder. Alvin answered by saying, "Not that I'm aware of." The state attorney then asked Alvin, "Why did he shoot Dave Seville?" Alvin's demeanor changed again and became violent, so much so that the jury was excused from the courtroom and the judge had the sheriff's officers to remove Alvin from the courtroom and they took him back to his cell. No other questions were asked of Alvin in the next 2 weeks. He was placed in isolation for inciting fights and was also given sedation to calm him down. When Alvin again appeared in court, his total demeanor implied to everyone who saw him that he was under heavy sedation to control his outbursts. His attorney, Mr. Cochran, told the court that he felt there should be a mistrial because his client was no longer mentally aware of what was happening in the courtroom and that it was an injustice to him that it continued. The judge told Mr. Cochran that the case, as it stood, was relatively finished. The state had already rested its deliberations. The defense attorney pointed out that he had not rested his side of the case on behalf of his client and that this was highly irregular for the judge to assume that the case was over. The judge then told the defense attorney that on the basis of witnesses he had on his docket, there was no one else he could ask questions from. But, he did apologize for assuming the case was finished. The judge further stated to the defense attorney that there would be no mistrial because of Alvin's sedated condition. That it was his own fault for not cooperating with the court or his jailers. The defense attorney then made the following statement that was recorded in the court record and was given directly to the jury. Here is that statement. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this chipmunk that you see in this chair is the innocent bystander, scapegoat that the state of California has chosen to use in this travesty called attempted murder. He has no recollection of what happened. A doctor has stated that he was not mentally competent or within his own mind at the moment that he shot Dave Seville. He has no other reason for doing this act except that he either has multiple personality disorder or that out of personal frustration over Dave's obvious success and financial gain from this franchise known as the Chipmunks, that he mentally lost any recollection or memory of what happened and thrust forth his anger towards this individual named Dave Seville. In my own assumptions as his attorney, he is not responsible for his actions and it is now up to you to decide what you think happened." He then turned to the judge and said the defense rests. The jury was excused for deliberations, which took approximately 2½ weeks after which they returned to the court with their decision. The foreman of the jury arose and the judge asked him had he made a decision in this case. The foreman stated, "Yes, Your Honor, we have." He then handed the decision of all 12 jurors to the bailiff and subsequently stated in the public record the following: "We find the defendant, Alvin the Chipmunk, guilty of attempted murder. We further state that it is our opinion that he be given a life sentence and incarcerated in a block of the prison system for the criminally insane, where he should be cared for by someone who is trained to handle mentally ill persons for the rest of his natural life." The judge looked in their direction and said, "The sentencing phase of this trial will be held in approximately 2 weeks. Your recommendation will be taken under full consideration, but the final decision is mine and mine alone. Until that decision is made, please do not discuss this with yourselves, with your families, or anyone else." The judge also ordered all the jurors to continue to refrain from watching any news coverage which could possibly cause bias in their recommendations of Alvin's disposition, although they had already made their own decisions about that already. The judge then stood. The bailiff told all to stand in the courtroom and they were dismissed for the day. On September 4, 1969, Judge Moore made the following decision in the case of Alvin the Chipmunk versus the State of California. The judge accepted the recommendations of the jury and said that Alvin would be given a life sentence, that he would be given constant mental treatment within the state's prison system, and the judge also made the following stipulation about Alvin's incarceration. He said, "I do not want this individual to ever hurt anyone again. This includes those he encounters within the prison system." The judge then said, "This case is closed." In the years after Alvin's sentencing, his defense attorney, Mr. Cochran, attempted several times to get an appeal before the state Supreme Court in Sacramento. All attempts failed. In 1971, Alvin's body was discovered inside his cell on the floor with numerous stab wounds. The state of California, realizing the celebrity status of Alvin, did not allow the media to view the body, nor were any photographs allowed to be taken. His funeral was held within San Quentin Penitentiary and no public viewing was allowed. The following transcription was provided to us by the Los Angeles Times and was collaborated between September 22, 1969 and a subsequent article of Alvin's death that was posted in the obituary around October 12, 1971. These transcripts were acquired from the Los Angeles Times archives and their microfiche library. Much of what was found was also collaborated by the State of California judicial system in the county clerk's office of the Los Angeles archives in the courthouse. New information has come to light regarding this case, but it will not be discussed in this video. To learn more about what happened to Alvin and what happened in the years after, please search my channel at KCHP TV 6 Hollywood, California.